The hosts and guests on Everything's Messy podcast are not licensed healthcare professionals. The discussions in our episodes are not personalized medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for medical guidance. Never delay seeking professional medical advice or emergency assistance because of our podcast. We encourage consulting with a healthcare professional before making any significant health changes. By listening to our podcast, you agree to the disclaimer. Thank you for listening to Everything's Messy. Hey, welcome to Everything's Messy podcast, where we celebrate the beautiful but messy life experiences that most, if not all, people go through. Get ready to embark on an exciting journey through the raw and unfiltered stories of everyday people. Here, we dive into messy realities of life, from making messy mistakes to triumphs and everything in between. Are you sensing a theme? That's right, it's messy. But this just isn't about the mess. It's about finding strength and resilience in the midst of it all. We'll explore how health, fitness, and wellness play a crucial role in navigating life's twists and very messy turns. And we'll challenge conventional systems, because sometimes the most unconventional paths lead to the greatest discoveries. Join us as we embrace the messy, beautiful, and endlessly fascinating stories. Each episode is a testament to the power of our messy journeys and the beauty that emerges from the mess. So grab your favorite beverage, coffee, sparkling water, whatever it may be, and prepare to be inspired. Are you ready? Let's get messy. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Everything's Messy podcast. I am your messy host, Sarah. Oh my gosh, is it hot? I am hiding under my hat. It is just too hot. Sorry, not sorry. Hiding, it's hot. Okay, we are coming up on the end of season 3, going to get into season 4. A couple of guests lined up to kick that off. And I just want to take a moment and just talk about the evolution of the podcast. You know, this started out as sort of a journal. It was sort of cathartic for me to talk about, my type 1 diabetes, then the heart attack, then really getting into Hashimoto's and talking about chronic illness. And it was just sort of a way for me to just express the frustration that I had with the conventional medical system and, finding that other people, I'm not the only one that felt this way. And then that kind of shifted to, I'm not the only one with a messy story. Everybody has a messy story. And I wanted to showcase and highlight those things. And it wasn't really just wellness things, although I feel like I've done a good job of bringing on those kinds of guests. But we've talked about grief. We've talked about suicide. We've talked about topics that, yes, intertwine with wellness. And the biggest part was to showcase these guests of their messy story and what they did with that mess and how they found strength through that mess. And I really feel what that did was bring a community together of connection. We are all searching for human connection. This community of my messy warriors, I hope that when you think about the podcast or you talk about the podcast, you're being able to say, yes, that's me. I don't feel alone. Yes, I felt the same way. Yes, my doctor made me feel the exact same way. I'm tired of getting gaslit. Or you heard a very inspirational story and you're like, man, that person can get through something so terrible. Maybe that gave you the strength to get through what you need to get through. Whatever it was, that's sort of, the evolution. And then lately, I've been finding topics that are related to wellness and how I sort of apply them to me. And I'm not a doctor and I don't want to talk very technical. So I try to unpack it for you the way that I would want somebody to explain it to me. And so I feel like it's sort of become this, I take one little nugget and we unpack it and, I gain from it. I hope you gain from it. And again, it just keeps us connected because everything is messy. It really is. And I really am just trying to build this community to find others that are dealing with burnout, chronic illness, whatever the mess is, we're kind of going through it together. And so I'm very excited to continue on and, close season 3 and open up season 4. And like I said, I have really good guests that are, coming on and we're going to talk about more mess and more things. And I do want to say very quickly, this event that I have coming up in September is something that is so just weighing on my heart. Number one, I don't think that we should be buying into wearing the badge of honor of how busy we are. I just don't think. That's just my opinion. And I also don't think that we should have to earn permission to rest. We shouldn't have to say, oh, I've done 50 million things this week. Now I can take a break. No, that's the wrong way. We don't need to earn permission to rest. We need to rest our bodies so we can pour from a full cup, so we can be a better server to others, so that we can, be excited and inspired because our body is at a calm state, because we can handle the things that are coming our way. But unless you are prioritizing, unless you are making sure that you are resting and not bed rotting, couch potato, all these new couch potato isn't, I feel like bed rot replaced couch potato, but there should not be, I shouldn't have had to have a heart attack for me to figure out I needed to take myself seriously and rest a little more. It shouldn't take that. And so this is really heavy on my heart. So I am trying to bring burnout to the forefront. I am trying to let women know you give yourself permission to rest. You don't need to earn it. Give yourself permission to rest. And so this event is just going to, go through my 3M system of mindset, momentum, and movement. I'm going to have Jessica Carlson. She's going to be leading us through soft, intentional movement, somatic exercises, very smooth things to put our body in calm state so we can receive that rest. Because there's a lot of times, and there's no shame in this, but there's a lot of times, me personally find myself sort of scrolling in my phone because I need to check out. I need to, disassociate or, completely unplug. But, scrolling through my phone isn't the answer. And I'm not judging who anybody does that. Again, I do it. But we need to make better habits and we need to carve out better time to really have that intentional rest that we don't need to earn. We don't need to earn it. It is not a contest and it is certainly not a badge of honor for how busy you might be with all the things that you're doing. We need to be intentional. And I'm always talking about prioritizing your sleep. And so I feel like this event is going to kind of talk about, I want you to know burnout is real. Burnout is going to happen. And this is a way to maybe shorten that burnout time for just a little bit, give you these tools that you can take with yourselves and do at home. We will have, some surprises. It will be an intentional, unique event that I just really want to share about, what burnout has done to me, what I know it has done to other women, which are going through. So if you can join us in person, September 12th at Mental Headquarters, you can find ticket information on my website and on my Instagram. If you can't be in person, we are also offering this virtually. And if it's speaking to you that you are just tired of, thinking you have to earn that rest, this is for you. So please check it out. Let me know. Very excited. And, let's learn to deal with burnout in a healthy way. Let's learn to prioritize ourselves, our sleep, our rest, and, learn these movements that we can do at home. This is where it's at. So very excited for this event. Okay. So got some housekeeping out of the way. Now we're jumping into the podcast. And today, shocker, I'm going to be kind of unpacking Hashimoto's. I've talked about this a lot, but I found I did a little bit more digging and I found some things that I thought were interesting. And one of the things that really spoke to me was there's two distinct things that stick out. I'm not saying that everybody that has this will have some sort of thyroid or Hashimoto problem, but this is something that I think it's very relatable. So toxins and trauma. So let's talk about, first, by the time you get the diagnosis of Hashimoto's, things have already happened, unfortunately. Brain fog, weight gain, hair loss, and it's physically and emotionally you've had enough because you don't understand what's happening, right? And by the time you're having these symptoms, that's your body communicating or not communicating that something is very, very wrong. And it's hard to back up and think about what might be the reason why it's triggering this autoimmune disease. So again, we talk about BPA, phthalates, PFCs. This is all, very toxic, right? Lead, nickel, aluminum, the terrible word that everybody's afraid to say this week, parasites. So I keep seeing these memes on Instagram. Hey, I didn't get parasites eating chocolate. Everybody seems to get it because they were eating produce. That's unfortunate. I don't know if they're going to be able to solve where it has come from, but um, it is something that we're having to deal with, right? Bacteria, viruses, and infections. And I'm going to do sort of an episode after season 4 starts. We're really going to get into the Epstein-Barr virus because there's a lot of connections between Epstein-Barr and thyroid and other autoimmune conditions. For those of you who don't know, really quickly, Epstein-Barr virus comes from if maybe you've been exposed and had mono, those kinds of things. It's a virus, but even if you healed and you're done being sick, because I want to be very careful, antibiotics cannot treat viral things. But once you're done being sick, some people clear it no problem, but there's a lot of us where the EBV, it goes dormant and it lives in our tissue and it's buried very, very deeply. And so things that trigger us, maybe sensitivity to food, maybe trauma that happens, can have a flare of this EBV, and then it slowly starts to just attack the thyroid. So I want to kind of get into that, but this isn't that. Let's see. Oh, EMFs, inflammatory foods, mold, fragrance. My daughter, she turned 16. God love her. And I'm being very careful. I don't want to just say, no, you can't, no, you can't, no, you can't, because I know that's just going to mean when she eventually can, she's going to go hog wild with it. So I have to be very careful. But these products, especially the teenagers, they all want to smell like strawberry vanilla cake or coconut cream pie or whatever it is. These body mists and perfumes are laden with fragrances that are endocrine disruptors. And so I'm trying to teach her why, not just say no, but why these aren't good for our bodies and how toxic they are. But at the end of the day, sometimes she just wants to be a teenager and smell like strawberry shortcake. And I get it. I understand. But the damage that this is, a fragrance, especially a body mist, even a body soap, you're going to bathe in it every day. The fragrances are so toxic and they are such endocrine disruptors. They're going to mess with your periods. They're going to mess with your fertility. There are all these things. And I know it's a lot, and a lot of 16-year-olds, boys and girls, think they're invisible and nothing, invincible, and thinking there's nothing going to happen to them. But I'm trying to slightly, salt the conversation with why this is bad without just coming out and just saying, no, absolutely not.
Hey, messy warriors. So if you're looking for some help, some guidance, how can I get back on track? Maybe you're newly diagnosed T1D or are a parent of a newly diagnosed child of T1D. Check out my website. There's lots of stuff that I'm offering, lots of support. Look, the T1D world is so much to unpack. It's going to take a long time to get in and settled. So if you need some help, reach out, let me know, and I'm happy to start you on your journey, or maybe you need some guidance on how to make a better plan. Whatever it is you're looking for, check out everythingsmessywellness.com. And as always, keep it messy.
But to my listeners, no, absolutely not. Fragrance is terrible. Any fragrance. Fluoride, emotional trauma, and these are all things that affect your thyroid. Okay. Then we look at Hashimoto's and the symptoms linked to blood sugar imbalance. Hello, again, tick, tick, tick. Right? So sugar and carb cravings, fatigue, afternoon energy crashes, weight gain or insulin resistance, brain fog, hormonal issues, anxiety, headaches, irritability. And frequent urination, right? And again, think of a Venn diagram. I'm not saying if you have Hashimoto's, you're type 1, but probably if you're type 1, you have some sort of thyroid condition. I'd be surprised if you didn't. And then we're talking about symptoms that are linked to mold toxicity. the brain fog plus chronic fatigue, vertigo or tinnitus, histamine challenges, which is funny because there are a lot of evidence out there. Histamine challenges are also related with perimenopause. So again, we're just have all the cards stacked against us all at one time. It's just a great thing. um, so chronic food sensitivities and digestive issues, rashes, acne, eczema, recurring UTIs or candida infections, and again, anxiety and mood changes. These are all linked, all to mold. Now, does it mean if you have these things, you were exposed to mold? No. But more than likely, if you were exposed to mold, there are some of these things in some of these boxes that you do check. And then this is the one that I find very interesting, that Hashimoto symptoms are linked to stored emotions. And that, especially for those of us who've been through trauma and things in our life, it's so crazy because we want to be strong. We want to be brave. We say, oh, there's nothing wrong. I'm absolutely fine, because we didn't sit in the mess and we didn't deal with the emotions that were happening, not in a healthy way. And now our body hangs onto it. It doesn't let it go. And now we're struck with an autoimmune condition because we didn't process our emotions. Like, that just floored me, right? So with the stored emotions, because it's linked to Hashimoto's, you're still dealing with brain fog and fatigue, constantly on edge and irritable, cravings or extreme appetite changes, headaches and or pain, lack of motivation, chronic food sensitivities or digestive issues like SIBO and parasites infections. We just talked about that. Again, anxiety or depression, stubborn weight gain. These are all things that the symptoms of Hashimoto's is linked to stored emotions. I don't know the scientific way they know this, but I have to guess that the people that went in for this clinical trial to talk about this were asked a series of questions, one of them being, have you had significant trauma in your life or significant events that have caused you pain? And then when the answers were all yes, they're able to link your symptoms to stored emotions. That's pretty big. It's often that we have these stored traumas or this stored emotions. And I can attest to this, it does become a little more painful when you have to confront them and sit in them, because it's almost like you have to relive that stuff again. Nobody wants to do that. But this is why I talk about my system, my 3M system. You have to sit in the mess. And it hurts and it sucks and nobody wants to be there, but you have to go through that in order to healthfully come out on the other side, be able to be regulated again, push through it. If we're just burying it, if we're not dealing with it, if these pain that we carry around and we just say, oh, I'm fine, it's fine, I'm over it, our body doesn't forget. Our body doesn't forget the responses. We always talk about our triggers. There's reasons why those triggers are there, because our body's remembering what happened. And so until you deal with that, am I saying you're never going to be triggered again? No, that it may not be the intensity that it might have been at one time. So we have to work through this. And that's why I always talk about sitting in the mess. People think, oh, it's just my slogan, it's my tagline. No, this is true, honest, real work that people that have been through trauma or just trauma dealing with medical things, you have to face why it hurts, what happened. Unfortunately, yes, you might have to relive it in order to get through it. And I am certainly not saying maybe this is something that you take on yourself. But if we don't find the tools to sit in this mess, our body remembers. Again, am I saying if you go through trauma, you're going to have Hashimoto's? No. I'm saying these things can correlate. If you have Hashimoto's or thyroid dysfunction, it could be because of stored emotions. That's all I'm saying. Doesn't mean that it is. But I do find it fascinating that they were able to make that connection. Especially, it seems like, and I've said this before, 80% of women have an autoimmune disease. 80%. Does that mean we're weak and we just can't take what happens in life? No. I actually think that makes us really strong. and we push our bodies even more. The disconnect comes from when something like trauma or big emotions happen. And because we don't want to be seen as weak, because we don't want to be seen as different, because we don't want to seem like we can't handle anything, we don't give ourselves permission and the opportunity to just, what if it's cry, break down? It's amazing to me. And I've said this before, the example that I just really lean into. Men are like the sun. They rise with the sun, they get up, they do their day, they come home, the sun is down, they go to sleep. I'm not saying they don't have trauma. I'm not saying they haven't had bad things happen to them, but they're very, consistent in that way. Whereas women, we are more like the moon. We have different phases. We have different seasons. We have different things that we talk about, we go through. And and I talked about this on the last episode, when most of the medical journey has been framed around a man, this is why they used to diagnose women with hysteria. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with the woman. She was hysterical. And it became a term that was used. Nobody took the time to really understand what was going on. And so I'm trying very hard to get information out there so, we're not labeled hysterical. We don't get gaslit by our doctors. These are real things that we're dealing with. Now, am I saying it should consume us? No. Am I saying that we should be victim? Absolutely not. What I'm saying is we need the right tools in order to navigate a moon cycle versus men and their sun cycle. It's two very different things. We are told we're making things up in our head. I say all that to say it's not equal. I'm not saying that it should be. I'm just saying there are differences in both the sun and the moon. These are just different things. We go through different phases. We go through different seasons. We go through different days. Yes, it's ever changing. It absolutely is ever changing. The point of it all is, again, and then you throw trauma and unresolved emotions in there. The point of it all is we have to take it upon ourselves to work through that, because we don't want to sit in that mess forever. We don't want to feel the ick forever. Absolutely not. Nobody wants to feel sad. Nobody wants to feel that way. But if you don't allow yourself, if you don't give yourself permission to sit in that mess, these are the things that are going to happen. And I'm a walking proof of that. I had somebody told me, hey, you need to sort out a few things or be kinder to yourself or make yourself a priority. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't be dealing with these autoimmune diseases. Maybe I would. Who's to say? But it's very fascinating to me, the correlation between a thyroid condition and stored emotions. And again, we'll get into that when I do my Epstein-Barr virus episode, which I think a lot of people, at least I hope, will be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Because we're not meant to be doctors. We're not meant to know all of the ins and outs and the things that are going on. We're just meant to live, right? And I'm trying to live my best life, but I also need to know why things are happening. So if you're like me, that episode will be for you. And again, I think if we're not talking about it, if we're not bringing attention to it, are we just going to be all labeled hysterical? I don't know. I certainly dare anybody to tell me that. I'm joking, of course, kind of. So that is interesting to me. I wanted to share that with everybody. Definitely the 80% of women who are dealing with autoimmune. Sometimes it's not Hashimoto's, sometimes it's lupus, sometimes it's psoriasis, there's not thousands, but there's several autoimmune conditions out there that maybe could be from unresolved emotions. And all I'm saying is sit in the mess, process it, deal with it, so you can come out of it more clear and change that mindset, right? I'm always saying it's mess, mindset. That mindset changes us. We start to implement new behaviors, new habits, new things, boundaries that we're not going to tolerate, and then into momentum where we're now on this new trail, this new path of how we can navigate all this stuff. And then I'm thinking about adding the next piece, which is burnout. And then we circle back and go through it again. because burnout is real. I talk about it a lot. It affects me a lot. And I'm looking, searching, want to make sure that other people that are suffering from burnout, especially from medical stuff. And that's where I'm not saying that you can't be burnt out from family obligations, motherhood, all those kinds of things, life, absolutely. But I specifically want to get into medical trauma. How much more can I be diagnosed with? Because I'm just done. I'm just done. And that affects how I take care of myself. That affects how I manage my diabetes. That affects how I manage my heart. And so I really want to, push into that and see where I can go with that. So that is all for now. Short episode this week. And again, I've got guests coming and we're going to wrap up season 3 and start season 4. I just cannot believe we are 153 episodes in. Woo-hoo. And yeah, here's your messy moment, if you will, for today. Give yourself the permission to not earn rest. You don't have to earn rest. You don't. So that is your messy moment. As always, keep it messy.
Thanks for listening to Everything's Messy podcast. Whew, if you made it this far, give yourself a gold star or at least a nap. Honestly, if you showed up today and you were listening, you've already crushed it. I'm so grateful for you listening. If anything hit home, share it, tag me, write it on a sticky note. I don't care. Just don't keep all of this messy goodness to yourself. You can find me on Instagram at Everything's Messy Wellness or over at my website, everythingsmessywellness.com, where I've got resources, coaching, and probably a new rant about blood sugar or something that's just nonsense. It's all waiting for you. Check out my YouTube channel. I've got all of my podcast episodes up there. And I'm on X at Everything's Mess. Or if you just want to send me an email, Sarah at everythingsmessywellness.com. Look, until next time, hydrate, take no crap, and as always, keep it messy.